Hey, what's going on, party people? Robert Jenkins here. Got, as always, my stalwart colleague, Jeff Gerlach. Yeah, I know that's a hell of a word to pull out the.
Howdy, y'all.
Yeah, so we are as usual, man. We sitting in the seat perilous or the seats perilous this morning, or this afternoon, whatever it might be, and what we're gonna talk about in this episode. Everybody's talking about COVID, so we're gonna keep, of course, talking about that a little bit. But we're gonna talk about what's not in the news about COVID, or at least what I have not been seeing. Things that I have not seen in the news, things that you haven't seen in the news. I think everybody's pretty well versed on what they're saying on mainstream media. But I have a whole selection of analysts and news sites that I look at that have nothing to do with the mainstream media. And they have proven to be far more accurate, by the way. That's why I check them out, because I don't know, mainstream media long time ago proved themselves to be incapable of reporting anything accurately to me.
Well, you can even notice now, like, it doesn't even seem like they're sure. One day it's this, then it's some big report on like the numbers thing. Isn't it interesting that, now there's a report that, it's probably going to be like 60,000.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden, like 10 minutes later, they go right back to this horrible, and this is happening, dying, and
we
this and that.
Die.
And it's, well, wait a second. If you just said, which, remember, we were told no antibodies, horrifically infectious. Everybody's going to get it, but the numbers weren't showing that.
No.
And so now they'll make that report, and then they'll flip, and now it's all the propaganda, which means you get to hear it and focus it for a second.
Yeah.
And then it's right back. Right. Switch the gears right back to the doom and gloom and everything that's going to happen,
Yep.
And which to me is just like you're just blatantly lying right here.
Right.
You just said one thing, but now we're right back to this thing.
It's like I always used to tell people, like, the reason I don't watch the regular TV news is because I can't stand to sit there and look at somebody lying in my face.
Yeah.
To look at somebody who's, it feels like they're looking right at you, and they're lying, and they know they're lying, and it's like, come on, man, I can't let you just lie to my face. That feels weird. I can't do it. So what we're gonna do is start off with just some personal observations. You might call them anecdotes. We're not doctors, we're not scientists and epidemiologists and all that. We're just two regular old dudes who can think critically about things, who have two eyes and our own God-given faculty of how to judge two things against each other, how to weigh things. And so that's what I'm gonna do. I can't offer you no medical advice or anything like that.
Right.
But
and so we're not doctors, and I can't. My brain is going. I mean, my brain can't stop. It's going so much that sometimes I'm feeling a bit like spaghetti brain. Doctors make a lot of calls on their common sense. If you're really sick, let's just rewind back. Let's say you went to the doctor a year ago. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because there's this notion right now that, well, the doctor knows. Dr. Falsey knows. He's the professional. He knows. So he's correct. The professionals are correct. Well, come on, man. How many times in our lives have we seen the professionals be wrong? And professional of anything. Maybe it's a professional house builder, a professional plumber, professional mechanic. Look, I'm good at my job, but I've been wrong.
Yeah.
I've diagnosed something wrong. And so if you go to the doctor a year ago, minus COVID, and you're not feeling good and you have a fever, well, you go to the doctor, and what does the doctor do? Takes your blood pressure, all that stuff, takes your fever, takes your weight, and then asks you what's going on. And, of course, this appointment takes about 3 to 5 minutes. And then says something. Well, you probably have a viral infection. Just go home and, eat your chicken soup, stay in bed.
Yeah.
And, you have a viral infection. Well, they didn't do any testing.
Yeah.
They didn't do anything. So remember, people remember, how many times do you go to the doctor where they actually give you a legitimate diagnosis? A lot of it is common sense from their education.
You probably got the little cold or something. Go home, here, take some Tylenol for the fever. Blah blah blah. It's just it's the same old
they have education and all that, but I've never had any blood work done for any illness, even the flu.
Me either.
Ever.
They say, you probably got the flu.
I have the flu.
You don't know it. They don't know that either.
Right. They don't know.
And that's a big point to make about this COVID stuff. That's all out there in the news now. The regular news is admitting, too, that they're just assuming if you come in with any kind of illness, it's probably COVID, you'll be all right.
Well, and on the CDC site, they have that part about how doctors to diagnose.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not going to say it word for word, but basically what it says is that, if somebody dies, and they have a symptom or two symptoms, it's okay to basically just say they died from COVID.
Yeah, that's literally, we looked that up on the internet, on the CDC website.
Right off of it.
We were looking at an article on, LouRockwell.com, and they have the link. You click through the link, it takes you to the Centers for Disease Control's official website, and it says on there, it was a PDF document for doctors, for medical professionals. It basically said,
the professional, mind you.
Yeah. Basically told them, just go on and call it COVID.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like, huh?
Yeah.
Don't you have, if you ain't got no test to the contrary, and if it looks like a duck and smells like a duck and quack like a duck, it's probably COVID. Just go on and say COVID.
Right. Well, and everything's falling under that.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
And listen, if you don't believe that, I will say this. Anything that we say, especially if we're going to put a fact, if we're going to say this is a fact, this is what we got from the CDC, look it up.
And not only that,
please,
we'll put them down there in the show notes. If you look at the bottom of this episode, wherever you're looking at, I'm gonna try to put all those links down there.
Yeah,
I have to say that's a harder job than actually doing the podcast. Look at all them dang links and typing something like, oh god. All right. But I'm gonna try to get them all down there, and you can follow the link yourself.
Yep. Actually, we want you to, because you can hear it, and that's the problem is that, and I'm guilty of it too. Meaning, just because it's on TV, just because it's on the news, doesn't mean there's any fact to it at all.
No.
And when you see it, read it, research it for yourself, you think for yourself, it also helps me in better thinking for myself to go, well, wait a minute, this, but here's what it really is.
Yep.
Well, that's not reliable then.
Right.
And now I've developed a much better opinion using my common sense, my free will, thinking for myself, which is one of our big goals through this, is that, we want to try to help ourselves and people think more for themselves, freely, which is one of the intentions.
Yeah.
Hey, one thing I do want to say real quick, everybody that's chimed in, everybody that's gone and watched the last week's podcast and all, we've gotten a lot of great feedback, a lot of thumbs up, and just want to thank everybody. And we've got to get used to our little sales blurbs here.
Yeah.
You're better at them than me.
Well, but both of us are kind of, I ain't gonna say we old heads, but we're not spring chickens, and we ain't up on all this social media. So you have to drill into your own mind to say, hey, like, follow, subscribe.
Yep.
Well, you can always find this show at the northstarpodcast.com, northstarpodcast.com. You can find us on Apple Podcasts if you look up the North Star Podcast. I'm on Twitter at Northstar Rob. That's at Northstar_Rob. I'm sort of on Instagram. Don't worry about that just yet, because I'm still trying to figure out, like, what's the point of I don't get that. Anyway. Yeah, like, subscribe, comment, and
the president likes it.
Yeah, does he? He saw it already?
Or is it Twitter?
Twitter. He likes Twitter.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant he liked the show. I was like,
no. When I spoke to Trump last week, he was all over the place.
Yeah, but that's the way he always is when I talk to him too. I'm like, what? So what do you talk about now? What you saying, man? And put your hands down, man. They too little.
Oh, he does point a lot.
Yeah, he's always. So let me get into my first anecdote. I like that word because you got to say anecdote. You remember last week when we did this podcast? It just so happened my daughter was here, and we all left because we have a ritual where we always go as a family to the corner store on Friday night and get some Slurpees and all that stuff. I don't know why. I just brought them up. It was, dad taking the kids to the store, so they still kind of like to do that, even though they're no longer kids. So long story long, we leave here to go to the 7-Eleven. And it wasn't a 7-Eleven because we just moved in over here. So I didn't know where the 7-Eleven was. We just stopped at the first open store because it was all dead and looked like a ghost town. It was pitch black out there. I was like, dang.
Weird.
So we get into the store. The lady in there is by herself. She didn't have on her mask and stuff, but when she saw us walk in, she was all trying to get her stuff all on, you know what I'm saying? And it was funny because we all walk in there. We got nothing on. We're all like chilling like, hey, how's it going? And she's looking at us horrified like, oh,
did you see? She I couldn't even get the stuff on the counter.
Yeah, she was stepping back and stuff. And she
was like, ma'am, can you get it a little closer?
She wouldn't even take it from you. I'm like, so she was horrified. Now, this is a week ago. And to me, what's funny is I've seen the evolution of this thing play out because I think more and more people are realizing that the numbers don't add up. The what you're seeing with your own two eyes is not adding up, that this is the bubonic plague or something. Because when she was doing that last week, also, at the same time, I was noticing that, like I said, we just moved. So I've been at Lowe's getting appliances and stuff like that. And back then, a week or two ago, everybody was all masked up and gloved up and stuff. And now when I'm going out, more people are just walking around normal with they call it PPE. I hate to call that because I was in the military and I don't like when you start putting militarizing everything like we on the front lines or something. Like, man, this is the flu.
Well, have you noticed in just real quick, because I've noticed with the governor of Maryland's speeches now, he's got a military presence in every single one of them.
Oh, God. See, that's stage managing. They're doing that on purpose. There's perception management. They're shaping the narrative to where Trump, what did Trump call himself, a wartime president?
Yeah.
I'm like, you're a wartime president because we have a COVID virus going around. Come on, man. And don't get me wrong. The virus can be dangerous for certain groups of people, apparently. But I don't know. As far as I can tell, man, it just, and I think, like I said, most people just anecdotally, it looks like most people are starting to realize, man, this ain't panning out to be what they said. So this morning I had to go into work for a moment, and I'm happy to have a job and I'm happy to go in, you know what I'm saying? But true to form, I have not worn a face mask or any gloves or anything. I've been pretty much going about my normal routine in pretty much the normal way. And the lady behind the counter today, when I was closing up, she was all like, she had a mask on. I was already 6 feet from her because the counter is kind of wide, you know what I'm saying? So I was probably 4 to 5 feet away from her. She was like, okay, well, you got to stay back. You got to stay back a little bit. Don't take it any kind of way. I'm just being, and I'm like, you're the only one in this whole building that I've seen with a face mask on. And you act like I said, like I'm a plague bearer or something. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, dude, just
I'm trying not to laugh.
No, man, it's weird and it's funny, but it's scary too because people like that have bought into the hook, line, and sinker into the narrative. Those are the people that will tell on you if you at the park.
Yeah, I know the tattletale and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. I don't know if we brought this up last week, but let's see, not last weekend. So 3 weeks ago, I did this on purpose. I live in Southern Maryland, and so the Walmart there, on purpose, I have a respirator, and it's got two environmental filters on it and all that. So and it's got a head wrap and all that. So I grabbed that, and I grabbed the rubber gloves. And then I've got my one pair of glasses that I wear to the range that are prescription so I can see, but they wrap around for good eye protection. So I told my wife, I was like, listen, I'm gonna go to the Walmart. And she's like, what's all that? I said, I'm gonna wear all of it. I'm gonna wear all of it into the store because this is horrific. Remember, this is dangerous. So man, I put all that stuff on and I went into the Walmart, and the looks I was getting from people. There was 4 people, so you got to think back. So that would be 3 weekends ago.
Mm-hmm.
There was only 4 people in that whole store that had a mask on.
Mm.
So I come walking in, and I'm ready for Armageddon.
Yeah.
And man, I got it all on, and people are looking, and people are getting. This is how propaganda works, and how it. Listen, it's mind control.
Mm-hmm.
It is. What did you text me?
Trauma-induced
or trauma-based mind control.
Yeah.
So my presence in that store, I watched it. It was a little experiment.
Mm-hmm.
People started to get nervous.
Mm-hmm.
And, if that had been any other time, people have been like, this guy's a nut.
Yeah, he's crazy.
People started to get nervous.
Yeah.
One employee walked up to me and she says, "Are you wearing a gas mask?"
Mm-mm.
Well, let me tell you, a week later, I go to the same shopping center.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a big shopping center. The same shopping center, and what do I see? People wearing respirators. I mean a lot of them.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I kicked all that off.
But
saying nobody was wearing the mask, man. Yeah. People were wearing the respirators. Yeah. They had bought the respirators. Yeah. They had the face shields on.
Yeah. Now you didn't start. You didn't scare the whole little section of Maryland. You know what I'm saying?
and I was literally, I'm like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And then the next thing I saw, and this is horrible. We had to get a prescription.
Mm-hmm.
There was like 9,000 people in the drive-thru.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, nobody's in the store.
Right.
Well, I'm going to go in the store. I'll be in and out in 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So I go in. The entire staff, between respirators, the N100 mask,
mm-hmm.
the gloves, and at the counter, this is what they had. They had this size, 8.5 by 11, may have been a little bigger, a Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And it said, "Did not wash his hands, now extinct."
Brainwashing.
And I looked at that, now that made me upset. And I said, I actually looked at the employees there,
mm-hmm.
and I said, this is about the biggest piece of propaganda BS that I've seen so far.
Mm-hmm.
And she looked at me and she said, "Well, you know what's going on."
Mm-hmm.
I said, "You want to tell children that the dinosaurs are extinct because they didn't wash their hands?" That's what you're basically saying here.
Mm-hmm.
So every child, which, I'm not a big internet surfer,
right?
But I'm sure this has got to be in a lot of other places.
Probably.
And so I probably shouldn't have said this, but you know what I said? I said, "You know what? You guys need to go over to a third world country that's being ravished by war,
mm-hmm.
and see people that are just getting blown to pieces. And maybe that'll change your perspective on this, to put out that type of BS."
Mm-hmm.
And, so you were talking about what was happening at the, we're giving thumbs up, just so everybody
mm-hmm.
knows.
Yeah.
Robert's the man with all the gear.
and my wife is the woman behind the scenes, making it work. So we're all looking at levels and stuff like that, and that's what I'm doing. It's not that I'm not paying attention, it's that I'm looking over here and checking out.
There's no dancers.
Yeah. No, well, at least not right now.
So I've got a friend who's also a client, her and
mm-hmm.
her husband,
mm-hmm.
and she's a nurse. And I'll tell you, she brought up something pretty interesting that I did start digging into.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, she was talking about a study being done right now. And this plays into this coming fall, but she said there's a study being done right now, and I think she said Stanford, about they're finding that people have antibodies to this.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It's herd immunity,
and
natural herd immunity.
Well, and then my nephew read me an article on the way over here.
Mm-hmm.
That was talking about the same thing. I think it was in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
That they're finding that people have antibodies to this. Well, that changes the whole ball game.
Right.
Remember, we were told we have no immunity to this.
Mm-hmm.
Which, of course, if you look at the numbers, your common sense was kind of leading you down the path that there's something way off here because it's not doing what they said it was going to do.
Right.
Of course, they say, well, that's because we put everybody in their houses, and that's
I'm gonna go over that in a second. That's actually counterproductive to do that. That is not.
You're
that
correct.
Is not the case. It's not as bad as it was what they said it was going to be because we're locked down. That might make it worse, actually.
Yep. Yeah. And but she brought up a very good point. She said, "Well, they've shut down the whole economy, and let's face it, they can't even imagine where this is going with the economy." And this is already ugly, and it's going to get even worse. I'm not trying to be doom and gloom, but I have enough common sense to know that when your government's already insolvent and they're $23 trillion in debt, that there's only so much paper money we can throw out there. But she brought up a good point. She said, "Well, they're talking about things not getting back and rolling, and schools and all this until the fall." Yeah. Which puts us right back into the flu season.
Yeah. Yeah. So I made that same point. I guess it was last week or a couple days ago on Twitter, and I'm kind of new to Twitter, like I was saying. So I put it out there. Hey, just thinking out loud, this virus, like all flu viruses, is seasonal. And all the guys that I'm reading, Dr. Brownstein, Bill Sardi, John Rappaport. These are some names that you might Google, and I'm gonna throw them down in the description so you can check them out. They're all saying, well, what everybody always used to know as common sense, that first of all, these illnesses peak in the cooler months and the cold months because people don't go outside and get sun as much. You're cooped up in the house more, and
kids are all in buildings. Everybody's stuffed into boxes.
And sunlight actually causes your skin to make vitamin D and I think vitamin E. And
that source.
Yeah, that's a natural vitamin E that your skin produces simply by being exposed to sun. And that boosts your immune system. And that is the main reason why you don't get sick as much in the summer and the spring as you do in the fall and the winters, because you're cooped up in the house when it's cold. You're not getting. So anyway, that's kind of the whole point they're making there. And the point that I kind of tweeted out was, what happens next year? So our next flu season, are we going to go in a cycle where we lock down every flu season and quarantine ourselves, self-isolate? And if that's the case, how is the economy ever going to recuperate? And why? And here's the other question. Why have we never done that before? And if we don't do it next year, next flu season, then why did we do it this flu season?
Yep. I gotta, when you're saying that, I gotta pull up a picture I took right off the TV. So this is right off of Fox News. I had to take a picture of it because it says coronavirus surveillance system. Kushner team weighs national network to track patients.
Yeah. Now they'll try to play that off and say, well, it's not like surveillance, like we're surveilling you individually. We're looking at medical surveillance, but rest assured, I have no doubt, just all the years that I've, been a news hound and been reading all this stuff, looking behind the scenes and stuff as much, because I'm just curious and I like to know stuff. They've always been setting up a surveillance system, and they always downplay it like, oh, it's not this, it's not that, it's not Big Brother, it's not. Yes, it is.
So you're starting to touch on a little more of the why. So we talk about stuff last week, and then that leads you down a natural path of, well, why? What would be the purpose? So you talk, and right now, I'm sure some people here, wow, what do you mean they're going to track us? They're going to this, they're going to that. Well, listen, you were just saying not surveilling, right? Well, let me read what's going on in Kentucky real quick. Kentucky governor announces plan to record license plates of each Easter churchgoers and force them to self-quarantine for 14 days. The state of Kentucky is cracking down on Easter weekend worshipers by recording the license plates of people who attend services and forcing them to self-quarantine for 2 weeks afterwards. In a statement, and then, of course, Rand Paul came back and said, taking license plates at church, quarantining someone for being Christian on Easter Sunday, someone needs to take a step back here.
Now, this show is about freedom. And obviously, when you read that, that sounds offensive or will sound offensive to a lot of people. But just in case there's anybody out there who is thinking like, well, they have to do that for their own good. Let's talk about the reasons why that is offensive to freedom. In other words, the principle behind that, the principle of liberty. And first of all, you have here, I don't really go by the Constitution anymore because that's a long story, but I look at natural rights, which are God-given rights. And one of those God-given rights or natural rights that you have is the freedom of association. So if you're an adult person in this country, you have, and it should be the world, you have the natural God-given right to associate with whom you please and when you please and how you please. So the state should have no business coming in saying, hey, you can't hang out because anything. It doesn't matter if it's a covert virus, COVID virus, whatever. It don't matter if it's a virus. It don't matter if it's your religion. It don't matter if it's whatever it is, your personal philosophy. If you want to associate with people and you're making that decision as an adult and you're taking the risk upon yourself, then the government, what business do they have? What authority do they have to tell you that you can't take your life and do with it what you please and associate with whom you please? And by the way, folks, freedom is messy. That kind of liberty to associate with whom you please, it goes both ways. So if you're a black person and you don't want to associate with white people, or if you're a white person and you don't want to associate with black people, what if you're a business owner and you don't want certain people in your business? They could be black, white, they could be heavily tattooed people, trans people, gay people, whatever. Well, freedom, as repugnant as it may sound, as bad as it may sound to our modern sensitivities, freedom dictates, man, that you got to be able to, you're the owner of this business, you're the owner of your house, you're the owner of your body. That's the first form of private property. You have got to be able to dispose of your body, your business, your house, whatever, your property, your private property in whatever way, form, or fashion that you see fit. And if you see fit to go to church in the midst of what appears to be a dud of a virus, what are they surveilling you for? What are they taking your license plate down for? What are they telling you you're not going to be able to come out for two weeks for what? You see what I'm saying? I get heated when we talk about freedom because I like that stuff.
I don't even.
He's pulling up these numbers.
No, and you know what? This has got to be impossible. I had to have done this wrong. I had to.
That number right there, man. If y'all tuned in last week, you can't see his phone, but the number he just had on his phone had so many zeros after the decimal point to the right that it was infinitesimal. I don't know what that number was, and I think we got the numbers wrong last week too. By the way,
what's that number?
That's 327,000.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
That's million. 327 million.
Right? Okay, so here we go.
Yeah,
and I'm gonna hold this up for everybody to see.
Yeah. So he's doing the math, and this number is still ridiculous. I don't know.
All right, so what we're being told is that we are now going to surveillance license plates on church. So we're talking about liberty lost, just over 60,000 people dying at 0.00018%. So we're going to of the population.
Yeah.
So this is what's interesting. This happened after September 11th.
Yeah.
We had a horrific bill passed called the Patriot Act. And so many people I know said, and can't go through the whole Patriot Act, but the premise of it, well, not the premise, the whole point of the bill was to track every phone, every email, every camera, everything. And the president came out and said, there's not a human being listening in. Of course there's not. There's a computer handling it. Keywords so that they can track and monitor everything we do. And what did I hear people say? Well, listen, they just slam planes into buildings and I got nothing to hide. So I don't care if they listen in. And I go, what do you mean you don't have anything to hide? You have everything to hide.
Your life. I got a poem called Chains Invisible. I think I might have already read it in an earlier episode, but there's a line in that poem that says, slaves proclaim they have nothing to hide because they scared to be free from these chains invisible. chains invisible.
Yeah.
Chains invisible. That's the way that's the refrain of the poem. I'm not just saying that because it's anyway.
Well, first off, that I've heard that before. Your poem.
Yeah.
And that's a great, awesome line, because we're talking about taking liberty, taking a natural born right, and tracking people over nothing.
And by the way,
what happened? What was it? 2017 to 2018? I'm going to get this number wrong, but 2017, I think it was 2017 to 2018 flu deaths was either 60,000 or 61,000. So,
and that has a huge asterisk by it too, but I ain't going to even get into that.
Yeah, we're going to take liberty on people's choices to go worship at church.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if you agree with church. It doesn't. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about it's your free will to go do that.
Yeah.
And that means, and what, you think those people aren't, well, maybe they don't know. Okay, they know what's going on.
Yeah.
They are choosing with their God-given will, with their will to say, okay, we know what's going on, but we're going to worship.
Right. Yep.
The same way that, hey, if you got the flu, you should be staying in your house.
Yep.
Not because of a law, because it's common sense.
Common sense, yeah.
Right. No, you're not going to go to church if you have the flu. You're not. I mean, I wouldn't go to church even if I was just sick. No flu, just head cold.
Yeah. And the people that are making these complaints, they're basing everything that they're complaining about. Oh, if you go out in public, you're going to get sick and get the rest of us sick. But that's based in a collectivist mindset.
Well, and it's all fear driven.
It's fear driven.
It's all they can't use. They're lacking for whatever reason. They're all driven by emotion and fear. I have a family member that's like that right now, and I'm going to read a statement she made to me. Okay, because this is a good understanding that there. And I'm no different. I've made decisions just based on raw emotion.
Yeah.
They've always been bad decisions. I will tell you, I'm not, if you can't take a moment to step back, I sent an email out to somebody and I said, stop watching the news.
Yeah.
Don't turn it on anymore because you're getting frozen. You're literally you're so overwhelmed by fear that you can't do anything right now, and everything you're doing is literally just fear driven. And then you hear the statement of, well, I'll take the overreaction if it means I'm not going to die. Well, wait a second.
Well,
you're not
die
even looking
anyway.
at facts.
Yeah.
You're not even looking at and basically, if you're going to say something like that, it's never safe for you to come out of the house again.
Right.
Because our flu season runs, what do we have, 2 flu seasons now?
Yeah, I guess.
I think it's 2.
Yeah.
There's like the flu when school goes back, and then the flu like after December.
Yeah. And there's that old saying, I got news for you. We was all born dying.
Yeah.
You dying anyway.
Yep.
You're going to die, and you're going to die a physical death and a spiritual death, and let your liberties die all in one fell swoop.
The reason I'm going to read this is because I've heard this statement, not just from this family member. I've heard this statement.
Yeah.
I've read it on Facebook stuff. I've read this stuff. So, and I love the statement because it's I did have a response, but give me 1 second here. It was, well, if you're not worried, then go to New York City and start licking lampposts and touching everything and catch the virus and see how well you do with it. And then go tell everybody they need to go back to work.
Well,
I love that
how
statement.
ludicrous that
First
is.
off, let me tell you, the main reason I wouldn't go to New York and lick a lamppost is not because I was worried about the virus.
I wouldn't go to New York to do nothing.
I'm more worried about catching something else other than the virus by licking a lamppost. But to put that statement in context, that's basically like saying to somebody, well, you're not worried about HIV? You're not worried about getting AIDS? Oh, okay, well, you know what? then you go out and find yourself somebody who's an intravenous drug user, who's a homosexual, and go have sex with them, and see how well you do then.
Yeah. That's the same thing. That's the same thing as saying, "Oh, you don't think gun violence is a big deal? Well, why don't you go get a 12-gauge shotgun and load it and point it at your head and then put your toe on the trigger and then shoot it and see what happens?"
Absolutely.
I'm like, come on, man, you're being ridiculous.
That is just a fear-based statement with no fact, and unfortunately, this is what we're seeing making economic policy.
Right.
We're crushing our economy.
I can't tell if it's a concerted effort to hide the fact that the economy was on its last legs anyway, or if it's the simple fact that President Trump is listening to advisors and he's deferring to medical personnel who are blowing this thing way out of proportion. And he's, as a politician, all these politicians, they have to say, well, I could get blamed for all these millions of deaths that they're saying is gonna happen. So then they start locking down stuff. And then you have, on the other hand, the kind of people that go into politics in general are going to be a high proportion of, well, you might call them sociopaths or whatever, but there are people who, but that's from what I understand. Most people, a lot of politicians are sociopathic.
No, but I could see that.
The worst always, there's an old question: why do the worst people always get in power? Because they're the type of people who want power and make the effort to go into power because they want to control you. Most people like me, I wouldn't know what to tell somebody else to do with their life.
No,
you know
that's a great point. That public service was never meant to be a career. Look at George Washington. Yep. President, general, and then what'd he do? They wanted to make him king.
He said, nah, son. That's
not what we did.
I'm going back to my farm.
Yep. I mean, that's a huge point you just made. That if you go into public service, which look, being a senator, being a congressman, I mean, that's what it is. Well, if your need is to stay in that job and stay in that world as long as you possibly can, then this is exactly why we have a constitution, exactly why we have inalienable rights, because you're just seeking to govern, control.
Yeah. Let me point out, bring up another thing that I think that I haven't heard about in the mainstream media. And there's this doctor. His name is Dr. Cameron Kyle Seidel, and he's a critical care and emergency medical doctor. He's from New York, and he's actually been doing what doctors are supposed to do, and he's not just looking at the protocol, as I understand it, because that's what I understand. They have a list of protocols, and they just look at the protocol. If you got this, and this, the protocol says you got to do this, and this, and there it is. But he's saying the treatment that the protocols say that you're supposed to administer for people that have acute respiratory syndrome like this, the protocol might be doing damage, because he said when you actually look at the way that people are presenting themselves.
Also with the ventilator.
Yeah, exactly. He said it does not look like SARS. It does not look like any kind of acute respiratory syndrome. It looks more like the BINS or high altitude sickness. And he's saying he's got people that have this and whose lungs are, their blood oxygen levels are terribly low, which is frighteningly low for a doctor, but they're sitting there talking to you. And he said that doesn't happen. He said, well, I don't understand how that's possible. If your blood oxygen level is this low, you should not be talking. You should be almost unconscious. We would put you under sedation, paralyze you, and intubate you. But when they do that, it has such pressure and force behind that oxygen, it's damaging the lungs and stuff like that. So they're actually developing a whole new protocol at his hospital. What was it called? I forget what it was called. Maimonides Hospital up in New York. And it looks like a smaller hospital. But anyway, he was still removed from the surgical team or from the medical emergency response team because he had that kind of he's bucking the system a little bit, saying, hey man, we're hurting people. We may be hurting people by doing this, following the protocol. Do what doctors are supposed to do, man. Like a good mechanic. You don't just come in and say, oh, your check engine light's on. That means, and it says code 52. That means this, put some spark plugs on. No, you're supposed to do diagnosis.
That's another thing that Dawn was talking about when she was talking about going into fall. She was talking to me about, and really I need to do some more reading to get some understanding here, but she was talking about how there is, and I haven't heard this anywhere, and now you're bringing it up, that she was talking to me yesterday. She said there is evidence that the respirator is doing more damage with people that are very ill, that it's actually creating more of a problem. And I had not heard that anywhere.
Yeah.
And now, once again, she's in medical, so she knows way more about this stuff than I. But then this is exactly what you're talking about here. And the, I have a friend of mine that you met Warren. He's been very ill. Okay. Now, I can't get my head around this, but when I say very ill, I mean, he has had a fever consistently, almost 2 weeks. Then he got a stomach thing going on, infection in his chest, and denied, couldn't see a doctor, was told not to go to the hospital. Then it got worse. It got worse. And then finally the hospital said, well, if you want to, you can go sign up to get a test. Because we're not hearing about this type of stuff in the news at all. You can go sign up to get a test, and then you can go have the drive-through test done, and then it'll take 10 to 14 days to get the results back.
Dang.
And this is what he said. He said, Jeff, what I said to him is, listen, if I do that, well, one of two things is going to happen. I'm either going to be alive and getting better, or I'm going to be dead.
Yeah. So
what good does that do me?
Right.
So my doctor, I texted him. He said he'd see him. Now he did it via the phone. Interviewed him, went over all his symptoms. I mean really went over his symptoms. They talked for a long time, and Warren's pretty smart. He's involved in sports, so he's been keeping himself hydrated and all that. Gave him a Z-Pack. In 24 hours, he was feeling better.
Yeah.
Now, I spoke to him, and his spirit, he sounded completely better.
Yeah.
Now, the medical, I'm so confused on this. I thought testing is what they wanted to do. You know what I mean? I thought that, so what happened? What's going on?
It's starting to seem like they may not want to test. First of all, because the test, as I understand it, is completely untrustworthy.
Yeah, well, I've read that too. Yeah. And then, of course, Maryland came out and said, we've had 1,000 new cases overnight. Yeah. But there's a part of it that they're conveniently leaving out. Yeah. They broadcasted once where the governor actually says, well, we do need to understand that those tests were given a month ago. But they're not showing that part of it anymore.
Oh,
so they did it once.
So in other words, they tested, like you said, it takes 15 days.
A month ago.
Yeah.
Well, you can't say that overnight there's been 1,000 new cases.
And that's indicative of the games they're playing.
Yeah. I mean, that's so misleading.
It's totally misleading. I'll tell you another little thing I learned that may not necessarily be in the news. On the news, they did say that Trump apparently has some kind of financial stake in this what is it called? Chloroquine. Or the doctor I heard said it's chloroquine.
I saw a report on that too.
Well, I was checking out this podcast. It's called the Highwire with Bigtree, and that's going to be down in the description there. So if you want to click on it and check it out, I'll put that link right down there. And he had this gentleman on there, and this guy actually did some research into. His name is Mike Cernovich. You may have heard about him if you follow social media and stuff like that. He's got a movie out. He was instrumental in breaking some key news a couple of years ago. But anyway, he just did what journalists are supposed to do. This Mike Cernovich, he looked at Trump's financial disclosures, which are public record as I understand it, and he looked to see what is his actual link to this company that makes chloroquine. And you know what it was? He has a mutual fund, and one of the things that mutual fund invests in is Sanofi Pasteur, the French company that makes chloroquine. He has about $1,500 to $2,000 worth of shares or whatever in that company, among other stuff in his mutual fund investment. And it might come down to, what do you say, a couple $100.
Which is pretty normal, by the way. I don't know everything about that world, but you usually have a broad, like, if you have $100,000, they're not going to put it all in one thing. They take and put some here, they put some here, they put some here, they put some here.
Yeah. And they take your money and they spread it around a bunch of companies that they think are worthy of investing.
Right.
Trump probably doesn't even know No, I'm serious. Like, because from
No,
what
no,
I
you're
understand,
probably
most
right.
people
Listen,
don't know
yes.
exactly what the
No,
mutual
no,
fund invests
correct,
in. They just put their money in a mutual
Yep.
fund. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? So
Yep.
anyway, that's the kind of stuff that this guy who was supposedly a conspiracy theory, he's I don't know if it was a theorist, he's supposedly a alternative hack journalist or something like that. Well, if he's an alternative hack conspiracy theorist journalist, why didn't Anderson Cooper or somebody look at Trump's financial disclosures and say, "Oh, it's $1,500 in a mutual fund somewhere"? Why does Mike Cernovich have to do this?
They just want to control our minds, man.
The narrative.
Control everything.
Yeah.
And I sent you something. I do want to. This is a lyric from a song. There's actually two things I want to read. This is a lyric from a song, and because this is the truth. This is what happens if an individual goes out and in our country and starts to quote unquote stir up commotion using facts, using truth, then they get deemed a certain. And I've had people say it to me. Oh, you just believe in conspiracy theory. Well, I'm just giving you facts.
Yeah.
I didn't give a conspiracy. I'm just giving facts. And the line in this song is, "It's hard not to be a menace to society when half the population is happy on their knees."
I wish I'd have wrote that. I got pen envy.
That's a phenomenal line. And I've been thinking about this all day, and the reason I've been thinking about it is we started to touch a little bit on why. Is it a big oops, just a big overreaction? I have a hard time swallowing that, and the reason I do is that would mean that not just did the U.S. do a big oops.
The whole world.
It meant the three biggest economies did a big oops.
All together. Fashion, yeah.
And it was just, man, we just overreacted, like I overreacted. My son got a bad grade and I overreacted and punished him for a year.
Yeah.
I'm having a hard time buying that.
Right.
Because when you look at what's coming down the road, of all the unanswerable questions and the hard realities. I own a business, the hard realities that are going to be coming from this. And it's just, so what I did was I threw together a little sarcastic thing, but I want people to hear this. And I sent this to you. And and what did you say? You said, well, why don't you tell everybody how you really feel?
Oh, yeah. I didn't know what that was. Was that an early morning rant, or was that
Yeah, I was just thinking about what was going on, and I was thinking about the numbers that they were reporting, and I was trying to really swallow it all. I was trying to gosh, all this, and we haven't even really talked about releasing of prisoners.
Oh God, yeah.
Over a virus that's now gonna, the numbers have dropped exponentially. And I did this with some sarcasm, but I did it with some seriousness. And I'm not gonna read the whole thing, but I'm gonna get to the end. But basically, I said, this is like a conversation between me and, they. And it's, hey guys, 16 million Americans filing for unemployment in 3 weeks. Oh, yeah. Oops. Computer modeling was wrong.
Yeah.
But an uneducated American used basic 6th grade math and posted on the internet how many people would likely die.
Who did that?
Oops. That was a lucky guess. And we showed people how to make a mask on TV.
Who put that on the internet? You talking about us?
But you said those masks were useless. Remember?
Yeah.
Yeah. You said those masks were useless 2.5 weeks ago.
Right, which is right.
Yep, it's correct. Yeah, we did. But hey, we also released people from prison, made police officers' jobs easier by telling them to ignore minor crimes like theft and burglary, told people they must stay at home or else, and we even arrested a paddleboarder in the ocean just to drive that point.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a great point. If I can jump in.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah.
When when you're talking about wearing those masks, that's all part of what you call security theater, and it's designed to make people see disturbing images every day.
Yep.
To hype up your level of fear,
your mind,
trauma-based mind control or fear-based mind control. So now they can say, well, it's the bubonic plague, but you don't see anybody dying and you don't see nothing happening. Well, let's make them wear masks, and let's make it. They're trying to make it mandatory to wear masks in public. So now
they are.
Yeah. So you're trying to see people now. You're looking around and seeing like, oh man, masks everywhere, respirators, like when you walked into that Walmart or whatever.
Yep. No, and I think those people the next week were wearing all that stuff. I mean, I might be wrong, but I think they saw me and were like, oh my gosh.
I'll tell you a funny story, man. Back when I was in college, back in the 90s, as is the old cliche, I was a poor, broke college student. And I had a pair of glasses back in there, and I broke one of the arms off. I actually fell asleep and rolled over on them and broke one of the arms off. And I didn't have any money. So, dude, that's what I had to wear. So I walked around for a couple of weeks until I could get some funds, really get my dad to get some funds together and help me get a new pair of glasses. So I'm walking around with this arm missing off my glasses for a couple of weeks. And by the time I got my glasses fixed or got some new ones or whatever the case was, I looked up and I noticed, why is that dude missing an arm on his that dude is missing an arm on his glasses. Everybody got an arm missing on their glasses. I was like, did everybody break their glasses at the same time, or did everybody think I was being cool? Because that's back in the day, we used to roll one pants leg up.
No, dude, I was just thinking about that. All the things with, I
don't know why we even did that.
It got cool.
It's monkey see, monkey do. And this is what I want.
It's kind of like the, I mean, look, and I loved heavy metal when I was a teenager. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, there's two pants that I love to laugh about. Oh. One, heavy metal, man, we wore the tightest jeans we could possibly wear, all the way to the ankles with the big high top Nikes. Yep. And I can remember, it was cool. Yep. Well, I remember sitting in school, those pants were so tight that my junk was in so much pain that I went down, got my sweaty sweatpants out of my gym locker. And then the other thing that I remember is, so I was just to be whatever, be cool. Yeah. I'm willing to wear pants like that.
Inflict pain on yourself, literally.
Yep. And then there's wear the pants where they don't look like they fit because they're falling off of you.
Yeah, sagging.
And everybody just starts doing it.
Yep.
Yep. All right, I want to finish reading.
But I was going to say, man, the way that human beings operate, we synchronize our behavior with each other. And it's a subconscious thing that they call it the madness of crowds or whatever like that. Yep. And the people who rule over us know this. And that is why they raise the terror threat alert to give us a signal of when to be scared.
Absolutely.
That is why they mandate useless masks, so that everywhere you look, you see people with masks and you start feeling like this must be serious. I got people with masks everywhere. This is done on purpose.
And you're touching on something even bigger with that. So, we got 5G coming, right? Mm-hmm. Well, they're already doing it. Mm-hmm. I'm not even going to go down this path other than I'm just going to say this. I want everybody watching, research an article written in the Baltimore Sun a little while back. Mm-hmm. I think it's probably been 2 or 3 years about 5G and what they were testing in Baltimore involving controlling people's behavior.
Yep. I read that at the time, and I got it off one of these conspiracy theories. And I was like,
but it was written in the Baltimore Sun. And the reason I'm saying that.
Go ahead.
It was just that, sometimes we do get some tidbits of truth.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's not even that. That's not even where I was going. That's why I started going with alternative media, because I realized that these guys are not making stuff up. The people that are saying dumb stuff are doing, that's probably disinformation.
Yes.
The guys that I listen to that are called conspiracy theorists are usually reading mainstream newspaper articles or books written by high-level people, passages out of the books. For example, who is it? Bertrand Russell's English theorist back in the day, is a high-level British thinker, philosopher. He's the guy that said through diet, injunction, and injection, there will come a time when the difference between basically the rulers and the ruled, the people that we rule over, will be so great that the people we rule over it'll be as inconceivable for them to rebel against us as it is inconceivable that sheep would rebel against the practice of eating mutton. Now, keep what he said. He said through diet, injection, and injunction. Yep. That means through what you eat, through what they inject into you, and through what the laws become, injunctions, we will not be able to even think about rebelling against them.
And what are we getting ready to start seeing?
About to start seeing mandatory injections.
Mandatory injections, man.
Mandatory laws.
And we had
we
had given some predictions last week.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are already coming out. And
I'm sorry, I interrupted your.
No. I'm going to fast forward because this is what I said at the end. Wake up, America. The truth is right in front of our face.
Mm-hmm.
Your government now knows how easy it is to take control of your life, to take control of every sporting event, every classroom in every school, every restaurant table, every business, every church pew, and more importantly, your mind, the way that you think. And they did it in less than 72 hours.
Yep. All they had to do to take over everything is say boo.
And once again, this is why I have a hard time believing this is an oops.
Mm-hmm.
Because in order for it to be an oops,
mm-hmm.
it would mean that they accidentally created fear
mm-hmm.
in banking, food, and health.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. What did you say last week when I said that?
Yeah.
That's our whole
life. Yeah.
They just accidentally created that much fear.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still there.
Yeah.
I mean, they can report in the news, here's the new numbers. And then right after they say that, they go back to all the horrible things that are apparently happening.
Mm-hmm.
And I do want to clear something up, okay? Because I did see this report.
Mm-hmm.
They're talking about, I think it's Hart Island in New York.
Right.
And if you're taking it at face value, you're led to believe that there's now this place that they're digging all these mass graves to bury people.
Yeah.
Well, do some research on it, okay? There's actually, this is even in a movie. It's like a murder mystery movie using Hart Island because guess what? The unclaimed people, and this is horrible that this happens. It's tragic, but
mm-hmm.
there's a lot of people that die in a city the size of New York
mm-hmm.
that they don't know who they are
mm-hmm.
or they have no family,
mm-hmm.
they have no relative, they have no connection.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where
mm-hmm.
they take those bodies to
yep.
be buried.
Yep.
And that's been going on for a long time.
Like a century or something?
I
actually forget. I read about that, but it was a long time. Yeah.
But there's nothing new about this.
In a city of 8 million or more people, you're going to have hundreds of deaths a day. In fact, I think I read somewhere on New York's census page or something like that. It says a person dies every 9 minutes in New York. I did the math, and I'm going from memory here. I thought it was 168 people a day or something like that.
Wow.
So 168 people a day die in New York City just because every day we're all born dying. So how many of those people that don't have anybody, homeless people, old folks who have outlived all their relatives, if they don't know who you are and they can't get any funds on you, they bury you on Hart Island.
Yeah.
That's why bodies are piling up.
Well, and another thing that I do want to clear up too, and once again, research it. We've seen these reports about the overcrowding in the hospitals. There's people in the hallways.
Mm-hmm.
They Sinai Hospital. I forget the name of the other one. Well, go back and do some research. This time last year.
Yep.
Actually, probably March, but same time period. About the 10,000 nurses getting set to go on strike because of the overcrowding in the hospitals. The people in the hallways,
mm-hmm.
having to triage people in what they said was an immoral way.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing
to do with COVID. This was last
nothing
year.
Nothing to do with COVID. And listen, this is a known problem where there are people piled upon people in hospitals.
Mm-hmm.
It's a known problem.
Mm-hmm.
But so once again, it's controlling your mind. It's making you think that this never happens. This has never, ever happened. And it's only happening right now because of this COVID virus.
Yeah.
And it just controls the way that people think.
Yeah.
And here's what's awesome about living in this country is at this moment right now, we still have the ability to control the way we think. And if it's just going to be on blind illusion, you know, listen, if all you want is somebody else to run your life for you, well, you can have that.
But I would say don't force it on me.
Yes, don't. I don't want that life. Yeah. You know, and I don't want somebody else to have that life. I want somebody to actually see what can happen when they can. It almost feels like we're talking like the Matrix here.
Yeah,
but to free your mind.
Yeah, take the red
Think
pill.
for yourself. Yeah, take the.
You know what? There was another thing that was excellent that you pointed out about the nurse shortages and that there's going on strike and stuff like that because the people were stacked up in the hallways. Another thing that you don't hear about in the news if you're just watching the regular mainstream media, there's this doctor named Newt Witkowski, and he was also on this Highwire with Del Bigtree. Now this guy is the senior head of the research department in design and biostatistics at Rockefeller University. So he's the guy that makes these models. These health models, these predictions, that's what they do. It's biostatistics. And he was saying that, first of all, he said, interesting. He said a ton of stuff. It's so much, but the link is going to be down there in the description. So go check it out. He says, the first, when Trump and everybody else and Cuomo and got on TV at first and they were saying, it's just the flu and don't worry about the mask. He said they were absolutely right. That's where they were okay at. But then probably what happened, I'm surmising behind the scenes, the healthcare Dr. Fauci and those guys kicked in and said, it could be hundreds of millions of dead. But that was the model, the IMHE model or whatever it's called, that was totally off. And they have been steadily and quietly revising that model down. And it started off 100, 200,000 dead, 2 million, whatever it was. Now it's like, it'd be like 60,000. It might be like 20,000. So in other words, like Trump said, and like Cuomo said the first day or two, it's going to be like the flu season. But they've quietly in the background revised that model downward. But this Dr. Newt Witkowski, he said that the tragic part of what they have done is that they have taken they kept talking about flatten the curve, right? He said, but people don't realize, like, when you flatten the curve, you push it out. So it doesn't peak gradually and then fall off like it's supposed to naturally if you leave it alone. You make it longer.
You make more suffering.
So what he's saying is, because they flattened the curve and made it longer, what's likely to happen is that we're going to see resurgences of this thing over and over again popping up, because by making it longer and making us stay inside, we haven't developed herd immunity. And people talk about vaccines and herd immunity. From what I understand, that's usually temporary, and it's not the way you get herd immunity. Herd immunity is when you're my age, so you remember when we were kids, you got the chicken pox. It was no big deal. You didn't get no vaccine. The generation before us, apparently with the measles, that everybody acts like the measles is Ebola nowadays. It's just the measles. It's a childhood disease that everybody used to get. I'm told that in the 50s and 60s and 70s, I guess they used to throw measles parties.
Oh, well, they did it with chickenpox, too.
There was
chickenpox parties.
So when one kid got it, you told all his friends to come over to the house so you can get it. And everybody in the whole neighborhood gets it one time. You get over it. And now everybody has lifelong immunity to it. And you don't get sick from it anymore. And that's what this guy, Witkowski, is saying. They destroyed our chance to get herd immunity from this by keeping everybody in lockdown, which goes back to the question of, is that on purpose?
Well, and you know what? Look. If this was going to kill 2/3 of the population, it had been happening already. Just period. It would have been happening already. I mean, there's no magic there. If this was going to be because think about the world. Okay, you can't keep everybody in their homes. Right. You can't do that. If this was going to be just wiping out, it would already be happening. And if just goes right into what you're talking about. If we're flattening it out, then it would mean that the people that already have it, they'd be dropping left and right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they're not.
But you're just not seeing it.
And you know what? I'm not being what's the word? I'm not being
flippant or dismissive or callous.
People dying is horrible, man.
Oh, of course
it is. And I'm not being insensitive to that.
Right.
Okay. And that's a lot of times what happens is, well, you're being insensitive and you're being, well, what if it was your child? Well, listen, of course I don't want that to happen.
Right. I don't want that to
happen on any given day. But we take chances stepping out our door every day of our life. And I'm just using my common sense.
Right.
That I'm not afraid to go out of my door.
Right. So let me ask you
I'm not afraid to sit right here with you.
Nah.
I'm not. If, and here's what I do know. If we sit right next to each other for long enough, if we do this for 20 years, chances are I'm going to have some illness that you're going to get. And then you're going to have some illness that I'm going to get. And I might have a sore throat tomorrow.
But then that's called life. That was going to happen anyway.
It'll be all right.
So let me ask you this, as we kind of wrap up a little bit here. What we've kind of talked about what we're not doing and how we're not feeling. What are you doing and feeling personally? We're not giving out any advice. We're not telling you to do what we do. Like I said, we're not doctors. I'm just saying, what are you and your family doing right now?
So this is a 2-part question to me. So what are we doing in regards to stay healthy? Okay. So to stay healthy, we're using common sense. Okay. And what's common sense? Meaning, well, we already wash our hands. We take our shoes off before we come in the house. Are we taking a little added precaution? Absolutely. Especially at my business.
Yeah.
We have to take added precaution at the shop. In our personal lives, we're eating healthy, which we eat pretty healthy already. No, I'm not going out into groups of 5,000 people.
Which I don't do that anyway.
I was just going to say that it wouldn't matter anyways because it's all shut down.
Yeah.
But I'm not being afraid to see my family. I'm not being afraid to see my mom and dad. They're coming over tomorrow. And guess what? They're over 65 years old. And my folks are doing the same thing. Now, they're being a little more precautious because they're looking at this because of their age, like it's a bad flu season. So, they're not going out and going to all the grocery stores and being piled around people right now, which... You know what?
Sensible,
I'll tell you this. When flu season hits, we've always done this. Yeah. We limit our exposure to people.
Yeah.
We do. Actually, it just frustrates me about dance.
Yeah.
My daughter's in dance. And I'm like, ugh. Kids are getting sick. They're in school. They're all that. And... I don't, the flu, I've had the flu twice. It's no fun.
Right. Sucks.
It doesn't mean I discommunicate myself from the world. I will tell you this, a normal thing that I do, especially when it comes to kids hanging out with other kids, is that if we're going to be going over somebody's house, and I'm not talking about COVID, I'm talking about, we ask, especially if it's during flu season, hey, has anybody been really sick at the house?
Yeah.
If they go, oh, well, yeah, last week he had been sick for about a week and a half. He had a fever for 5 days. Well, you know what? We go, well, you know what?
We come next week. Yeah. Common sense. Yeah.
One thing that I do like is we've always been really careful about what we eat. This has actually given us the opportunity to do a little more research and get a little more adamant about our garden. But that's because when I say a 2-part question, I'm worried about what else is coming.
Yeah,
it has nothing to do with the flu.
It's the after effects.
It's going to be the effects from our economy and what things are going to cost.
Like they said, the action is always in the reaction.
Yeah,
that's what the point of these. I don't know what you call them, drills, pre-plandemics. That's a perfect word for it. It seems like a plandemic. The action is always in the reaction.
Yep. What about you?
Well, we're kind of much the same as what you're talking about. We haven't put on any masks, and we are purposefully going out in the sun more because as I understand
oh
it,
yeah, yes,
the sun makes you
the same thing.
The sun helps your immune system by
Yep.
creating vitamin D and E, I think
Yep.
it is, from your skin's exposure. So we're purposefully going out in the sun, purposefully letting the kids ride bikes, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
We always have been doing this, but now we're definitely doing it, which is taking supplements. So we have a couple of vitamins. One of them is Beyond Tangy Tangerine. It's a mixture that you put in juice or water or whatever, and it's 90 essential vitamins and minerals that you don't get from your food. It's the actual more. It's a super concentrated, higher.
You get more absorption.
Yeah. And that stuff, I like the way it tastes. My wife thinks it tastes funny, but she puts juice in it. I like it. I'm like, yeah, because it helps me drink water too. So I fill it up a whole 32-ounce thing and shake it up real good with a scoop like you're supposed to. Follow the directions on there. We're making sure everybody in the house drinks that. We're trying to eat more healthy. We were doing real good, and then we moved, and then we're like, we gotta get some pizza. And the wife was like, we gotta get some this, gotta get some that. So we're just kind of getting back into our groove of actually cooking and more veggies and sound like somebody's upstairs playing me or the Wii. What do you call that? Wii or something. Somebody's dancing like Michael Jackson.
I hear cooking, man.
Oh, is it somebody's cooking? Oh, okay. I didn't know what it's. Anyway, so one of the other big things that we're doing is we're purposefully spending a lot more time together.
So I was waiting for you to say this because I love the saying, the more things change, the more they stay the same.
Mm-hmm.
There's always positive.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I'm really hoping that comes from this is we have become so busy and so distant as families, with games, with being on tablets, with doing all that I've gone out to dinner and I've seen families eating and nobody's paying attention to anybody.
Yeah.
They're all doing this, and now people are having to spend more time with each other, which is good. And the TV is, and I have heard even from clients that we don't have the TV on as much as anymore, so they're playing games. They're doing mind games, and when I say mind games, I mean like the guess
not
games.
Playing mind games, but board games and Scrabble and Jenga.
That to me is an awesome thing. Yeah. You can see families in neighborhoods walking together.
Yep.
Man, I haven't seen that in the way I'm seeing it in since I was a kid.
Right.
Since I was a child.
Right.
And where we live at, our kids are outside all the time. That's just we're real big on being outside because of you get more vitamin D from the sun than drinking a glass of milk. And that's awesome. And it's funny that technology's huge, but people are also finding out that just good old-fashioned time spent together.
Yeah.
And with these things that they've done with the holidays, where now people are told not to go be with their families.
Yeah.
Well, they're going to crave that even more.
Yeah. I'm not advising anybody to do anything illegal or anything like that, but I mean, there is a strong tradition of civil disobedience in the Black community. And in American,
this
country
was founded on rebellion.
And like I said, you can't be like, oh, don't go to church on Easter. And I feel sad that pastors have caved into that too.
Yeah,
so many because but then again, that's a whole other podcast.
Yes,
but I would just say in closing, man, I would encourage everybody to get out there and do as you see fit for yourself and your family.
Absolutely.
Don't, as long as you're not harming anybody else, I think you're well within your rights as a human being to ride this thing out the way you feel like you need to. And above all, man, don't give in to fear. Don't be herded like cattle.
Yep.
We're human beings. We ain't cows.
Yep. Absolutely.
Sheep either. Yeah.
You wrapped it up, man.
Oh, well, in that case, I guess we better.
You said it perfect.
I guess we better be at everybody 2 digits then, like we normally do.
Thanks for chiming in. What is it?
Yeah, so peep us out. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on NorthstarPodcast.com. You can go to YouTube and catch us on the channel is the North Star Podcast. And I'm on Twitter. It's North Star Rob _ no, North Star _ Rob. Is that it? Yeah. He ain't never seen it before. I'm like, I think it's at North Star _ Rob. I still don't know exactly what to do with that Twitter account, but that's where I'm at. So if you want to have a conversation, man, hit me up. I'll definitely answer back, but it might be a little late because sometimes I don't always have access to my electronics. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, man, thanks for tuning in.
Yep.
And man, we'll catch y'all next week.
Gotta do 2 days.
Yeah, do 2 days.